let's start into the third hour, and now we have the new stuff. We had first part, theory about OData. Second part, recap of Entity Framework and ASP.NET Core. Now programming with OData, okay? That's the goal of our next lesson. What we will do now. Let me quickly open my notes here. First, let's add a very simple ASP.NET Core controller in order to remember how it feels like building an API controller, and then we will switch this API controller towards OData. Okay, this is what we are going to do. Right-click on controllers, add controller. Okay, go to API and say API controller empty. That's the most simple way of adding an API controller. You have to give it a name. Let's start with customers, okay? Customers controller. Now, can you remember how we programmed with this controller? First, we added a constructor where we say, give us the OData, give us the data context. OData customer context. Context, this is part of the controller. This is dependency injection. Remember what we did a few weeks ago. And if you are a lazy programmer, I am a lazy programmer, you can use the light bulb here to say create and assign field. See that one? Just click on that one and it will make sure that the context is stored in a variable inside the class. That's it. We are good. If you have that one, we will add a very simple method, getAll. This is what we have done so many cases. So let's add a public action result, getAll, and we just say return OK context.customers.toArray async. That one. What am I missing? Why will this not work? If I use an async method, what do I have to do? 3 things.
Wait.
Wait.
Return a task.
Make it a task, and so here, wait. Make the return type a task, correct. And last but not least, it doesn't work. See, got an error. What is the sister or brother for await? Async, correct. So we need to add async here. Good. That is what we need to do. Very, very simple. That's a getAll. That will result in a SQL query that says essentially select star from customer. Can you remember? Yeah? Just a recap. And do you see the problem now? That's exactly what I told you in the theory lesson. We are just returning everything from the customer table. We cannot filter, we cannot project, we cannot sort, we cannot page, nothing like that. It's a trivial endpoint, and therefore it's a little bit too trivial. Okay, good. Let's add a second one, just to be able to add something. Public async task of action result, add. We can get the customer. And can anybody remember how we did an add with Entity Framework? Pretty simple. We just said context.customer.add C and context.savechanges. Can you remember? I hope you can. This is something that you should be able to do. And at the end, we'll make it simple. We just say return OK. With the customer. Yeah, something like this. That's a rather naive implementation of add, but it works. It's okay. I guess you got the point. Let's try it. Build the project. It should successfully build. Please don't forget, if you want to run the project, don't run it in IIS Express. Select the second option up here. Don't run it in IIS Express. Select the second option here and run it. I simply forgot it. Thank you for pointing that out. I simply forgot it. Thank you for letting me know. And now it should be good. Let's run it again. I get an empty array because currently I don't have any customers in my database. That's fine. But that's also somewhat boring. No? Should we add a little bit of demo data so that we can have a little bit of fun afterwards with building dashboards? Okay. Please excuse me if I will quickly write down some code, scratch some code to get some demo data. My suggestion would be I will quickly type it in and I will share this code through a shared clipboard so you don't have to type. If you type fast and if you can follow, and it's fine, just follow along. Otherwise, wait a second and I will give you this code in a second, okay? So that is the code for the fill method. What does the code for the fill method do? It generates a bunch of customers in various countries and it generates a bunch of orders and that's it. Nothing special here. Let me quickly try it locally and then I will give you the code and give you 2-3 minutes to copy this code in, okay? I will use Postman for doing the fill operation. HTTPS localhost 5001 API customers fill and send a post request. I set a breakpoint to make sure that the system will break here, send it, it is here, and I will run it through, let's see if it works. And I got the 200. And if I now say a get with the customers, if I'm lucky, I get a bunch of customers. You see it here? Looks good. Let's switch back to English and let's add OData. We only have 15 minutes left, so let's see if we will be able to make it. We'll see. Right click on the project, add another NuGet package. Don't forget to stop the project, otherwise you can't add a NuGet package. Manage NuGet packages. And please look for OData. And there should be a package which is called Microsoft ASP.NET Core OData. Microsoft ASP.NET Core OData. This one. But don't click on it yet, because I want you to additionally include that setting. Include pre-releases, because OData for .NET 5 is not final yet. Microsoft ASP.NET Core OData. I will add ASP.NET Core so I don't have to look so much. Here it is. And that will give us the version 8 preview 3. That is correct. This is what we need to install. And we are done. Could you install the package? Are you good? Yes. Nice. Good, good. So please go into Startup CS. Similarly to the OData data context, we will need to add a very small function. Let's please call this function. It will just be 2 or 3 lines of code. Let's call it private static IEDM model. That's part of OData. Get EDM model. This one. In this method, we have to tell OData which tables should be available over the internet, over the ASP.NET Core. And we do that as follows. var builder equals new OData convention modal builder. That is the helper class with which we can specify which tables we would like to publish. I give you enough time to follow along, don't worry. Builder.entitySet of customers. Let's start by just publishing the customers. Okay? The important thing is that this one here has to be the same as the name of the controller. So please watch out closely. In your case, it's not called customers, but I think you use the singular. So this should be customer, not customers. Okay?
Okay.
Good. And then at the end, we just return builder.getEDM model. That's it. Of course, if you have multiple controllers, like orders and order details and suppliers and whatever, you would have multiple of these lines. Understand what I mean? Yeah? Just here you just specify, hey, our controller up here will be an OData enabled controller. And with this one line, you make it an OData enabled controller. We are not done yet. We need to change a few things, but it will not be complicated. Everything fine so far? Could you follow along? Good. Second line, dependency injection. If you remember, I told you that whatever you do, you always need to add the necessary prerequisites into dependency injection. The same is true for OData. One line, services.add OData. Here we can specify a bunch of options. I want you to enable filtering, enable expanding, enable selecting, enable order by, and we are good. And last but not least, we need to tell it that, sorry, I made a mistake here. We need to tell it add modal that our modal is OData, and our method is getEDM modal. So I give you a second to follow along. This is the line that you need. This line says, I would like to use OData. I would like to enable the customer to use filtering, $filter, expanding, $expand, selecting, $select, and ordering, $order by. And I would like to enable all that on top of the modal that I specified before. So we just say these are the filtering and sorting and so on options that I allow. Understand? Just these two things and OData has been set up. Not more. Could you follow along? Do you have any problems? So now let's turn our customers controller into an OData controller. So please open your existing customers controller. And let's turn it into an OData controller. How do we do that? First, we don't need these two attributes up here. We can delete them. We don't need them. We need a different base class. Instead of controller base, we will use OData controller. For your information, if we take a look at OData controller, OData controller itself is derived from controller base. Got it? It's a special controller base. It's a controller base that is OData enabled. So not complicated, just change the base class. Are we good? Then we go to the getAll method, this one, and we change it a little bit. Instead of HTTP GET, we write enable query, this one. And now comes the important part. Remove the async, remove the task, remove the await, remove the toArray async. See how simple it is? And that's it. We are done. We now have OData enabled. Please follow along. Please go to. Please follow me. Just follow my thoughts. Try to follow my thoughts. Here, we are not returning a toArray. We are not loading all the customers in memory, but we really return a reference to entity framework. This is the DB set from the database context. Got it? This is a so-called queryable. So we are giving directly access to our entity framework to OData, and with that, whenever somebody sends a $filter, for instance, it can be translated into an entity framework query and translated to a database query. Got it? We do no longer do a toArray. That's important because we are no longer in charge of building the query. This is done by OData. Got the idea? Good. Nice. Now, let's quickly try that. I will run it. Just watch, okay? Then you can try it on your own because maybe I made a mistake and that would be a shame. Let's see. Okay, let's go to, where is my postman? Here is my postman. Here, let's do that one, and let's zoom in a little bit, so you can follow along more easy. Is it possible to get all customers? I have to switch to OData. It's no longer API, and let's see. Not found. Not good. It's the... I think I have to call it get. Let me see. Woohoo! I get some data! I get some data! So please change that. It must not be called getAll. It must be called get. Please change that to get. And now let me show you the magic of OData. I didn't have to implement anything like that, but now I can say question mark $filter equals to country ID equals Swiss, for instance. Run it, and the result will be filtered to Swiss. That is what I wanted to show you. Did I have to implement a separate web API that can do filtering? No. It's just there. All I need to do is to enable my endpoint for OData. And now I can do filter, I can do select. For instance, let me see. And $select equals to customer name. If I'm only interested in the customer name, let's see. And you see, I only get the customer name. And this is really the query with the where clause is passed down to the database. This is not done in memory. This is really passed down to the database. Understand why I am excited? That's a lot of functionality I get for free. And this immediately works with Power BI. I could now create a nice little dashboard for my customers with Power BI. So let's try it, please. If you have done everything, remove the all, and then maybe try in Postman this query with the filtering. Okay? Let's give it a try. That's the last thing that I'm going to show you today. Just so you get an idea, what I added here is the so-called expand clause. See that one? $expand, right? And now take a look at what we get down here. We get each customer, in this case just the customer name, because I also have a $select. But with a single HTTP request, I also get for every customer all the orders. See that one? And that's super powerful, because now you don't need to write a separate web API for that. If you need to display, for instance, all the customers with all their orders, it's a single HTTP request. And what is the code that enabled that? It was the single line of code with the OData endpoint. Can you follow along? Do you understand the concept that I wanted to show you here? Yes? Do you like what you see? I hope so. Good. And just to prove the point, I promised you to do that, so I will do it. I will open Power BI just to prove the point that it really works. In Power BI, I select Get Data. I go to OData. I just specify HTTPS localhost 5001/OData. Nothing more. Hit connect. And if I'm patient for another moment, you see, voila. Here is my customers. I can immediately select this one. I can load this guy. And it will load all my customers into OData. And I can start building awesome dashboards with OData based on the data which I got back from my web API. So if I add, for instance, that one here, and I say, give me here the number of customers per country. No, not the ID. I'm sorry. I wanted to use the country ID. And I see immediately I see immediately a nice chart where I see that I have 40% in the first one, and the second one, I think you'll get the idea. Right? Nice one, isn't it? So we don't have to do a lot of coding for building a nice little statistics, and we can do all the things that Power BI is capable of doing. You don't know Power BI yet, but I think you get the idea. You get a rough idea about the potential which is possible here in Power BI. Yeah? And Power BI, for instance, also can build so-called maps. So if you have, for instance, a world map and you would like to display charts on a world map and things like that, Power BI can do all the things. You just add some geo coordinates or some country names, and immediately you get a nice little world map with bullet charts in different countries and so on. Get the idea? And what is the code that enables all that? A single line of code. If you want to make it even more expressive, you could say something like this, and then it's really a single line of code that enables OData. This is what I wanted to show you today. So I went a little bit over time, but I hope that is okay. Do you have any questions regarding that?